let me ask you, what do you think is the biggest storyline in college football right now? I feel like we're being force-fed this beef between the SEC and the Big Ten. Is that the biggest story for you?
Well, I think that has to be brought up in the conversation. So just to start right there, it absolutely is. It is turning into this gigantic battle for who gets to declare what the new college football playoff format is going to be. And Greg Sankey's incredibly vocal, even when he doesn't have a microphone in front of his face. He's got all of these different back channels and mouthpieces that speak for him, that has been extremely outward on putting out what he wants the new playoff model to be for the 16-team playoff and for it to be 5 and 11. Next week, Tony Petitti's a little less outspoken, but I'm very curious what he will say during Big Ten Media Days. But outside of that, if we're talking like on-field stuff, the biggest storyline to me is, does Texas live up to the hype, specifically Arch Manning? I think that if Arch ends up being as good as so many of us hope, it is going to be some of the best theater that we can get in college football, and it is going to be a must-watch TV every single time they play a game.
Joe, apologies to revert you right back over to that SEC Big Ten question, but my question is, how much longer does the NCAA even have power to control these two conferences that are making more money than all the rest of the conferences combined?
I think they've already lost it. It kind of feels like, as we start to read more and more on the decision-making of the playoff and the decision-making of things like the College Sports Commission and revenue sharing and how NIL is changing and how it is turning into a completely different avenue for player payments, I think that the NCAA has completely lost all control. And I almost start to question, does the NCAA even have any power to do anything to control them? And that was something that was brought up not that long ago, that it was discussed amongst SEC presidents and Greg Sankey, that they were exploring, does it even mean anything to them to still be a part of the NCAA? Now, they haven't actually done anything with that discussion, but it's something that they're considering. Like, do they actually waste their time staying connected for football when they really should be branching off and doing their own thing? I would think if the Big Ten and the SEC weren't fighting the way that they are right now, that might have happened sooner. That might have already happened. But because they can't agree to this playoff format, they're not working together like they should be doing in order to reshape the sport and turn it into its full potential best product.
Right. I wanted to ask you about Penn State, because from the people that I've talked to, it feels like a lightning rod team. There are people who are in the camp of, hey, this team is overrated. James Franklin can't be trusted. I don't trust this team at all. And then there are the people who think they can win the national championship. And I will say this, over at BetMGM, Penn State, 8-1, the third shortest odds to win the national title. Do you have strong feelings on Penn State this year?
I'm in the camp that I don't trust James Franklin, and I think it's completely justified. I look at the roster. The roster makes perfect sense for a national championship winning team. We look at the last two Big Ten teams that went on to win a title, Michigan and Ohio State. They did the same exact thing at the start of the season that Penn State just did, bringing back key, important veterans, seniors, guys who have played a ton of football games on offense and on defense. Zane Durant is a fantastic defensive lineman. Denai Dennis Sutton is a great pass rusher. Zakee Wheatley, great at safety. And then on offense, they've got the best running back duo potentially in the country with Kaytron Allen and with Nick Singleton. A lot of pressure on Drew Aller if he can play to his expectation, his potential as this big-bodied pocket passer who can attack downfield, make less mistakes, and they will get to a national title. But where I ultimately am not fully bought in, James Franklin, what is his signature win? What is the big game that we could point to and we can say, all right, he stepped up to the plate. He needs to do more of this. He just hasn't necessarily had the roster or hasn't had the quarterback. He has had all of the resources in the past to win big football games. Every single time they've shown up, they've either fallen short at the beginning by just not coming out swinging, or they have not finished effectively. I was at the Orange Bowl, and that was one of the bigger meltdowns that I can remember for a game that I've been at in person. That game was in hand. Notre Dame could not tackle Nick Singleton, and they got away from so many of the things that were working in that football game, and they collapsed. That goes on James Franklin. That goes on his ability to control the team and to get everybody locked in, while Marcus Freeman was able to make that happen. So I can't invest in Penn State because there's just been an inability for James Franklin to prepare his team for these big games. I want to be proven wrong, but I am holding my breath at the current moment.
I love it. Death, taxes, and James Franklin will always let you down. I got to ask you a personal question, my guy, because, Joe, I'm an ex-UCLA Bruin. I have not a ton of faith in this program, especially after last year's media day when the head coach, when prompted, was only able to answer one question when he said, we're in L.A., USC's there, and that's frightening. That's apparently all he knows about his program. But we got Nico, man. Is Nico going to turn this program around?
The answer very abruptly, no. The answer to that question is no. And I think I know that there's a lot of hope that UCLA can get something out of Nico, but we got to look at what he struggled with last year. He struggled with having that just natural, innate decision-making, the reactiveness, the quick trigger, attacking just focus that you want in your quarterback. And the hope before all that drama unfolded was, okay, he's going to get an off season of being the guy where he's going to develop and everything around him is going to come together. It is always that typical step forward from year 1 to year 2 where we see a guy really jump to his potential. But I think with all the commotion, the distractions, him changing teams, changing offenses is just so many hurdles that his progression is going to be marginal. I don't think it's going to be this big leap forward. And more importantly, he's stepping into an offense led by Tino Sinceri, who I think is a great OC, but didn't call plays last year for Indiana. We don't know what that's going to look like. And he also has limited weapons to throw to. I can't really call upon, hey, this is the guy that he can turn to in tight situations to make a big play. I think it's going to be pretty rocky this year. There's redemption available in his second year as a starter in 2026, and I hope he sticks around that long. But this upcoming year, I would keep expectations pretty low.
I want to ask you about a dark horse team, like a team that nobody's talking about that you think people should maybe be paying attention to, because obviously in the world of betting, these are the teams that we're looking for.
So I've got two teams that I've been bringing up lately for this. They're both Big Ten teams. One team that I think has the best shot to get to the playoff that nobody's talking about, it is UCLA's counterpart. It's USC. USC has quietly one of the better defenses, led by one of the best. I know I'm giving devastating
right now, Joe.
Crapping on UCLA and then coming out here and hyping up USC. I have to share though. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so this pains me just as much as it's probably paining you. They've got a really good defensive core, and they're bringing back a lot on their offensive line. Their receiver room is also tremendous, and there's an opportunity for them to really explode now that Maeva is the decided starter. I think his skill set is a lot better for Lincoln Riley's offense than Miller Moss's was. If D'Anton Lynn can unlock this defense that took a huge step forward, I think that we're going to see Lincoln Riley get this team to a playoff, especially with a very favorable schedule for them. But the other is the deeper pull, where if this team plays to what we're hoping, they can shock so many people, and that's Washington. Damon Williams, who they started to play a little bit at the end of last year, was a true freshman, and he is fast, he is quick, and he's got a very underrated arm. Go back, if anyone has the time, this is something that I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Watch the bowl game that they played in. He willed them back after he started the game really slow. They did not win the game, but he ended up almost getting them back into it and winning that football game because he made so many big plays late down the stretch. And they've also got a really good run game with Jonah Coleman, and their defense could be incredibly hard to throw on because they've got two corners that are 6'4".
Joe,
all right.
We talked about it earlier. Realistic expectations for UNC.
I think that realistic, knowing that Bill Belichick's a good coach and that roster being pretty barren, losing one of their best players in Bo Atkinson, who transferred to Ohio State in the spring, 6 wins, I think, is pretty realistic, on the higher end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a tough transition going from Mac Brown to Belichick, especially with all of the commotion. I don't think a lot of people realize how bad all of the negative headlines that were happening with Belichick will affect the locker room. It's bad enough when, say if you had a guy in the locker room who got into trouble or gotten arrested, that stuff will weigh down a team. But your head coach being a part of headlines nationally for the craziest possible headline, it is going to distract the hell out of guys, and it probably distracted them during the spring while they were trying to get ready for this upcoming year. So I think with all those moving pieces, them playing in a conference that's got some pretty tough opponents like Clemson and Miami that are going to put up a much bigger fight, I think that 6 wins is doable, but I wouldn't be shocked if this is a team that misses a bowl game.